Hi, my name is Chris Bennis. I'm the president of the Lake Forest Caucus, and today I have the privilege to be speaking with John Noble, who is the president of the District 115 School Board. John has been a lifelong resident of Lake Forest. He's played a lot of tennis and done some really interesting theater work, and this is his second term on the school board. So we're gonna talk with him today, learn a little bit more about what he's been up to and some of the great contributions he's been making as a volunteer in the community, and provide some background for those of you who are interested in volunteering and what some of the attributes are that serves people well when they are volunteering for Lake Forest. So John, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, and I'm excited about the opportunity to share with others, so thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I think in our interviews at the caucus, it's always trying to give my life story in about 5 minutes. So I was born in California. My family moved to Connecticut for first couple of years, and then we were here in Lake Forest, I want to say kind of 73-ish, 74, so when about 5 or 6. So kindergarten, first grade, moving in here. I have an older brother, older sister, and a younger sister. And so as we came in, the four of us kind of growing up, and actually all of us graduating from, I think Cherokee, DPM, and then the high school. And so Lake Forest has been part of my life for a long, long time. I spent about 10 years when I first got married to my wife in Evanston, and then we moved back here with our first child. That was about 3.5. So love being here, and had a varied, I guess, eclectic life story. So I was a professional tennis player for a short spell. I was injured on the tour, so at the ripe age of 22, my tennis career was done. I was asked to come back and coach the high school girls and boys teams, which I did for about 4 years by Skip Atwell, who was my gym teacher actually and my Frosh Soft tennis coach at the high school. So that was a really neat opportunity to kind of come back and give back. I coached for a few years individually, and then started pursuing during that time some acting. I would sneak into my sister's acting classes at Northwestern, and funny things started to happen, and I actually got into a summer stock show at Northwestern and met my wife there. So picked on someone a little younger than me, and she seemed to like me, and so we ended up getting married shortly thereafter, and I had to get what I would call a real job. So I actually had to get into think about professional work, and so that was taking me out of doing some acting and things. And so, not that I was anything special, but started to work in the finance area with a company my father had started. So we did mergers and acquisitions, strategic planning, treasury work for corporations, and I became a lecturer and a consultant on that side a little bit, and then I had sales territories that I sold to in both New York and then the West Coast. During that time, I got my hands dirty with a little bit of producing. So my sister was a playwright at Northwestern and an actor. So trying to help her shows get done, tried to put those on, and we put on almost all of them in Chicago. So through Victory Gardens, Body Politic, getting her with other contacts and other producers. And then I fell into meeting some folks within the theater world on the producing side, and that took me to raising some money and helping out with a few Broadway shows. And so I was fortunate enough to win a couple Tonys, one of a very big crowd of people, so it's people say it's a big deal, but yes it was, but at the same time I had a small role, so I contributed in a small way. And so won some awards there and won some awards here in Chicago with my sister's play, but that was always been a hobby. And so my wife performs and sings and does types of things on that professional stage, and so she is the true professional as well as my sister. And so I stayed in business, did those types of things as we started to raise our kids, moved back here, just stayed involved. And my tennis took me into platform tennis, and I helped run the Chicago Platform Tennis League, which is about 6,000 men across Chicago area. We've got about 550 teams in different clubs, park districts all up and down, and run the tournaments and do those things with a nice group of about 20, 25 folks. And so that's been a lot of fun. And then some wiseacre invited me to audition for the the caucus, as it were.
Roped you in.
Roped me in. And it was just, it was a blessing. It was the right time, right thoughts, came in presented this story and kind of what I do and what I believe in, and just kind of laid it out there to say, hey, if you guys perceive I am of value to the caucus and the community, I am happy to serve.
Yes, and as a caucus endorsed candidate,
Yes.
talk to me about that experience, and if other people in the community are looking to volunteer and engage the caucus, what are some of the things they should keep in mind as they navigate that process?
Yeah, it's really finding an interest. So whether someone asks you or you see an interest in the community to be on a committee or something like that, and that's how very much I got involved in paddle and platform tennis and trying to help that out. Is just really just getting involved in a tournament to this or that. And so I would equate the caucus in a lot of that ways in the community and say there's a committee with an interest. So it might be the Preservation Society, it might be the library board, might be a committee within other types of things that are happening within the activities here. So far, Parks and Rec, from the standpoint of what we're doing in terms of the music festivals and those things. I mean, those are all kind of committee run. And so for me, when that was asked, and I think of people thinking about what their interests are and where they should lend a hand, it's really just raise your hand. I mean, if you see something and you would like to contribute, there's a lot of people that are wishing and wanting that type of contribution, and frankly, it's just willing to get your hands dirty. So I think that's really the first step, is to see that are there personal things that you feel that can be of use.
So serving on the school board, you've undoubtedly identified some of the key attributes that make you successful and allow you to collaborate more effectively with the administration, with the community. Can you share one or two attributes that a school board member needs to bring to the table to be effective?
Sure. So when I think of that, it's really being open. It's really being open and listening. I talk a lot, but at the same time, I really try to hold in that I'm actually listening at the same time. So I'm trying to hear what the problem is, and I've got an interest in actually helping solve that problem. I may not have the answer. I may have to discover the answer with others and kind of working together. So I think one of the best attributes I believe I have is I do care about the outcome. I care about the solution. And even though it may be difficult or challenging, is really trying to look towards, can you look forward to seeing what a solution might be, and that you have an interest in actually solving problems. So that would be clearly one. The other one, I think, is really trying to see if you can walk in other people's shoes as best as you can. I can't be what I'm not, but can you have empathy towards those causes and maybe understand where they're coming from, and then try to look at it a little bit from their perspective and why might they be so passionate about that issue, and then trying to address from a holistic perspective is what can we do about it. And I think when I think about the board, people hear a lot of anecdotes. So there's a lot of problems that are unique to that person, that situation, and that issue. And that's a real trap as a board member, because we need to be thinking holistically and strategically and long term. So how do you address the items that are of essential value and importance to a single person or a single cause, but how do you look at and bring that and meld that into a longer vision? Because that's really, not that I'm not interested in the near-term solution, but that's really the administrative's job. That's the operational job for the admin and the school. My job and our board job is really, from a governance perspective, is to look long-term. So is that an incident or a single anecdote, or is that a trend, or is there something deeper that's causing that issue that we might need to change or look at structurally? So those are some of the attributes I think I have that are unique to me, that I try to look at through that lens. And I think if you look across our board, we've got a lot of different talents, and I think that's what's the power of both Lake Forest and the power of the caucus, to look at people's ideas and capabilities, but then to mix that and to bring not as much to make a perfect fit, but to bring additional talents to that community of 7 to figure out, can they collectively then work and work towards a longer vision that's better for the school district, the students, and the community.
So in terms of collaboration, there's a number of different entities that need to collaborate: the school board, the administration, the community. Can you provide an example of how the school board has taken some input from the community and collaborated with the administration to perhaps make an adjustment to the short-term or the long-term strategy that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so COVID's an easy one. So whichever way you want to look at it, I'm sure we got it wrong. COVID was messy, and so the question was is how were we listening to the community on a day in, day out basis? And that was probably the most challenging time, because people were looking for solutions literally the next day, the next week, and that is not the speed that a school district functions within, or a city for that matter. And so I think what ended up happening is we were looking at how do we collaborate with the different visions, the different opinions, the different politics that were all around there, and trying to get the kids back in school, to get the learning back to a level. And going to make people mad, but I think we did a pretty good job. It was uncharted territory, and I thought through both administrations, both with Mike Simic as well as with the interims and then with Matt Montgomery, I think we've really figured out a way to at least try to serve through 115 the best possible path we could navigate within Illinois. And again, playing in a situation with many masters, that was one where I would say from a collaboration perspective, we had to actively listen and actively pivot and change on a day in, day out, week to week basis. So that'd be a large one.
Can you speak to how the board impacts the financial aspect of the district working with the administration?
Yeah, so we are a taxing entity, so that's dangerous. We have the power to levy taxes, and part of it is an obligation based on our operating budget. And so every year we're asking for a little bit more money based on we're in an inflationary economy. We're much worse of an inflation now than we were, but as the knee-jerk is every single year, we're asking for a little bit more to cover our operating costs, salary increases, other types of things that are happening, most of it contractual. So we live in a very structured contractual environment under government regulations and under a set of costs that we have to bear by a kind of, we can't compete in a way that a lot of companies could go out or nonprofits could go out. So we have to use prevailing wage and other types of things. So we're in a structured environment, which is, I think, difficult at times for people to understand, but at the same time, that power of being able to say we can tax you. And recently we've offered up a referendum for the district, which narrowly passed. But that was something, again, we needed to do, and we had to go to the taxpayers, communicate our story, and understand what was going on. So that is something we've had to collaborate on, both with the community as well as the administration, of how to do that effectively. And what we're having to answer to is, are we being responsible? Have we considered all the alternatives? What are the choices? Because we're talking about taxing families that have children in the school. We're taxing adult seniors that maybe no longer have kids in the school, people that are on fixed incomes, people that are very wealthy, people that are not very wealthy. And so it affects all of them. And that is something I think we as a board take very seriously. When I first came on, I know the board president and our board at that time took it seriously, and we continue to do so. So that is something, when we look at those costs, it's not trivial. It's something that has to really be measured. But from the standpoint we look at it, what are we trying to do? So we're trying to basically offer an elite education within the North Shore in a very competitive environment that continues to add value to the community itself, that we are a destination in some elements to want people to move here, to maintain the history that our high school and the education and the opportunities that have been here for such a long time, and to be a caretaker of that. So at times we try to maybe cut new ground, but at the same time really honoring the growth and the new opportunities as we go forward. So the financial aspect is giving, I think, the community transparency to see as best as they can. This is something we're seeing and talk about on our board meetings, our discussions one-on-one, and we look about how we want to shape that and what we're trying to do. But that's really hard, I think, at times for the community to see into all that. And so they get a little bit of that information, and so our job is to try to actually get more of that out to them so they really can have at least a lens of looking a little deeper into what we see and why we're making the decisions we're making.
You just started your term as president.
Yep.
Can you share with us some thoughts that you have on what success is going to look like at the end of your term? That'll be there at some point.
Yes.
Your term will end at some
Yeah,
point.
that was the scary part. 4 years, right? You sign up for a 4-year term. I have a hard time planning next summer. So 4 years out. So I think of success as have I left and contributed so that the school's in a better place than when I started. So in a very corny sense, that's actually what I would look at. Second is am I leaving the school district and my next set of board members and administration and the people there in a better spot than they were? Have I uncovered and solved some problems that effectively that existed to make a little bit better to what we're doing? Because it is a slow step-by-step process to kind of get there. And again, the strategic view, the strategic thinking of longer-term success is how I think about that. I think it'll be measured by other people than myself. But I think if I can honor myself, the community, my family, the students, then I think I'll probably have done what I need to have done to do a good job.
Is there anything that you're particularly honing in on that you want, any particular problems that you for sure want to see addressed here that'll speak to your legacy?
Well, I'm less worried about who gets credit, to be real frank. So it could go to whomever. But I think the things I'm looking at specifically, so a couple things I started with. So I was on the legislative kind of committee watching those types of things and helped lead that cause my first couple of years. I was the finance chair for the next 2 years and then came into board work for these 2, and then we'll see where I am for the next 2. The legislative stuff, we were able to help contribute into 2 different legislative pieces. Took a couple of years, but we got them done, which was great. One was removing some of the mandates on the teachers, creating a more efficient process for them to do the mandatory trainings they must do every year. And so what ended up happening there was an ability for them to have more time differences. So they could do trainings that might be once every year, once every 3 years, once every 5 years. But to create a better environment to bring back some of the professional development hours that we lose as a district that go into those hours, some 40 hours of teacher mandatory trainings. So we helped influence some legislative work there. The other one was a law that was basically amended and changed by one of the reps around grooming. And what that dealt with was really bad behaving teachers that had, or admin, that had misbehaved, but effectively their employment records were clean. So they weren't able to see or be seen in the next interview, the next job. So we were able to help kind of reframe that so that there was greater visibility and accountability to kind of bad actors. And I was working both with the teachers union and other state officials to really kind of understand that nobody wants that. Nobody is interested in having the bad actors. So we were able to help really do that. So those are a couple things I started with. On the finance and operations side was really starting to change a little bit longer term looking for where we go. We struggled with a little bit of our maintenance and investment in the building, and hence part of the referendum is, a lot of the referendum is to solve a lot of that as we look for the next 20, 30 years. So trying to create a better financial model for us to look longer term, and we've been able, I think, to do that, and that's been a good lead point for us to move forward. And then another one on the legislative side that we're working with right now that has a lot of my interest is on special ed. We have a lot of investment and a lot of dollars that are used every single day around kids with IEPs, 504s, English language learners that are around our districts and all districts in Illinois. But very little money comes to Lake Forest. So depending on the tiers you are in and the wealth of your district limits that investment from the state and federal. And so that is a burden that, frankly, we take on as a community to delivering the education levels we do, to a tune of about $2.5 to $3 million every single year for our district, as well as for District 67. So that is something we're trying to better understand how we can help shape the classifications of special ed without removing the risk and without removing the accommodations that are afforded and should be afforded to these individuals. But it's going to be a heavy lift, and I think it's something that can get accomplished in the next couple of years, at least as a framework to hold things off of and work with a couple of the advocacy groups to do it. So that is one of the things I'd like to see done, because I think it will reflect positively on the high school and give us a little bit more operational freedom. And And I think the rest of the other things just continue as I do. But I think those are some particular things I've had a bit of an interest in, and I can see a direct parallel of how they can help the district and help our freedom of how we set up and teach our classes and our students.
Can you share what's been rewarding about your volunteer journey, as well as what's been the most challenging aspect of your volunteer journey?
Sure. So it's very rewarding. I can't even put into words. And I was warned this by many of the folks that asked me to come in, and other people that have served on the school boards. It is probably some of the most rewarding work I'll ever do. It touches many people's lives in a way that effectively we can show tangibly how we're helping them. That does not come with necessarily applause and congratulations every time. For some people, they see wanting to put up the stop sign in their street, and that's what they see as a solution, when in fact another solution actually might be more appropriate. But in effect, being able to show the incremental growth of our district, of our community, and having a hand in that is really rewarding. And I'm proud to serve with the people I've served, and I've gotten to know people that I never would have been exposed to. So I think being brought into the caucus process, the interview, the discussion, and being then afforded the opportunity to take my talents and bring those forward as being seen of value to the district and community has been immensely rewarding. Challenges on that side are nothing moves as fast as I would like. So I'm more of an entrepreneur by nature. I work individually when I did as a tennis player, and the discipline to practice and become better and work on those things. I'm limited in what I physically can go do. And so I absolutely need the cooperation and the attentiveness of other people to participate to be successful. And that's great on the one side, but it's very challenging on the other, because things do take time. And you do have to start to think about, a year, 2, 3 years out. And for a lot of folks, the immediacy of the problem or the solution is tomorrow, is next week. And I absolutely sympathize and empathize with that. But the challenge is for us to make long, sustained changes. These are things that are metered out and take time. So it's really the speed in which we can affect what should happen and a better model going forward. But that's in some way actually probably a good governing, that we're not making knee-jerk whipsaw changes just because we've got a whim to do so.
All right, well, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for taking the time today to share some of the activities you've been in and some of your thoughts. It's been very appreciated. And have a great rest of the day and week.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's a pleasure anytime. Thanks.
Thanks.